Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Crista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, we are going to be talking all about the dreaded bright, shiny object and what you can do so that those things that actually are things that you're genuinely interested in, you have the space to explore, but they do not distract you from what you are currently working on and the priorities that you currently have in place. So first thing I want to level set on is what I consider to be a bright, shiny object in business. And to me, this is absolutely anything that's enticing and distracts you from what you should be doing or the priorities that you've already established. I think a lot of times when we hear the term bright, shiny object, we're picturing that scroll stopping post that pops up in your feed in Instagram or the email that hits your inbox with a sale that you just can't resist or the new tactic or tool or technique that you have to try because it's going to basically solve all your problems and make you an overnight success, right? I think a lot of times when we hear bright, shiny objects, those are the things that we think of. And while those are most definitely bright, shiny objects, sometimes some of the most dangerous ones are the ones that we generate or that are a little closer to home because we don't always recognize them as bright, shiny objects. So here's a couple examples. One, new ideas that you come up with. So this one's for all of you creatives out there. If you're anything like me, you are probably coming up with new ideas all of the time. And if you're like me, that new idea always seems like the best idea ever at the time that you have it. Upon further reflection, it is not always the best idea ever, but when it's new and it's shiny and it feels exciting, it always feels like such an incredible idea. But there's a reason why I highly recommend that you create some space and do not immediately react to bright, shiny objects. Because again, upon further reflection, we often realize that the idea was not either as great as we thought it was, or maybe not really aligned with what's important for the next 90 days in your business when you reflect back on your vision and goals. So new ideas that you come up with are definitely an example of bright, shiny objects and ones that sometimes we don't always recognize as bright, shiny objects. Now, the other one is ideas and advice that you get from someone you trust. This could be your coach. This could be your business bestie. This could be your spouse or your business partner or somebody else. It's somebody who you do trust and you very much value their opinion. And so you place a different weight on it than you would the random email or the random Instagram post that you see that promises some overnight success, right? Somebody that you trust gives you this advice and you take it seriously. You want to at least do some due diligence and consider it and see if it really does make sense for your business. And sometimes the advice that people give you is absolutely brilliant. Sometimes it's not, but let's assume it's great advice. It doesn't mean that you need to do anything about it right this very second, and you need to do something about it right now. And so here's the thing. I mentioned space with the new ideas that you come up with. I think space is critical no matter what, whether it's advice and ideas from someone that you trust or whether it's a self-generated idea that you come up with. What you really want is space. You absolutely want to create space in your business so that you can explore these ideas. But what you do not want to do is you do not want to be reactive and immediately go down the rabbit hole. When you're reactive and you get into that place of interrupting what you're currently working on, that's when it's a bright, shiny object that actually can hurt your business, hurt your progress, and hurt your ability to actually achieve your goals in the next 90 days, or at least to do so without overworking and really just overwhelming yourself. And so there's a little technique that I leverage and that I developed that is a core part of the lean out method that I want to share with you. I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but I want to dig a little bit deeper today because this is your solution to bright, shiny object syndrome. And it is what I call innovation hour. Now, just like we have optimization hours that I highly recommend everybody has in their business, I think every business should also have protected space for innovation. And innovation is where you can go out and you can explore those new ideas, whether it's something that you had, whether it's something that your coach or somebody else had recommended to you. But you really do want to have that space to think of new things that are going to take your business to the next level. There's a quote that I often say, and it's if you're not growing, you're actually falling behind. In business, there's no such thing as standing still. And I want you to think about that for a moment because really, truly, you need to be growing at all points in time. You need to constantly be evolving. And sometimes you need to be putting new things out that your customers are going to want that they may not even know that they want yet. Now, if you are on the hustle hamster wheel and you're working 24/7 and your to-do list is so long it should have its own zip code and you just can barely even keep your head above water, you are not thinking about innovation. You are thinking about surviving your day, right? That is not the place that you want to be. But if you are being really intentional with your time, if you are following a lot of the practices that I share on how to structure your days and how to approach your strategic planning so that you are not overcommitting yourself, you're only focused on what matters most, and you are creating some of that space in your calendar, then you are in a completely different place. And that's where we want to get you to. And when you're there, what I recommend that you have is that you have an innovation hour. Now, I call it innovation hour. The reality is you can allocate and dedicate as much time to innovation as you'd like in your business. Some people do an entire day. Some people will do a week or two every period of 90 days. You figure out what makes sense for you and your team and your business. But at a minimum, you should have the equivalent of an hour every single week that is purely focused on innovation. Now, what I recommend you do and how this ties to your bright, shiny object is I think you should have a backlog that you pull from for your innovation hour. So you're going to create an innovation hour backlog. I am a huge fan of using Monday.com. That is where I have my innovation backlog. Whatever project management tool you use, whether it's Asana or Trello or a Google Sheet or whatever you do with your teams, that's where I recommend that you create this innovation hour backlog. And so here's what's going to happen. You are going to have these brilliant new ideas, right? Or you are going to meet with your coach and they are going to give you some amazing new ideas. Well, what you're going to do is you are going to take it, you are going to put it on your innovation hour backlog, and you are going to get right back to working on what you had committed to for the day, for the week, for the 90 days. You are not going to let yourself go down the rabbit hole and completely distract yourself and lose a day researching something that's not actually your top priority. But you are going to have a space to put it so you can get it out of your head and not lose sight of it, because sometimes those ideas are absolutely brilliant and absolutely what you need to take your business to the next level. So go create a backlog in whatever your project management tool is. And every time you get those new ideas, either from yourself or from somebody else, go and put them in your innovation hour backlog. And then each week, when you get to your innovation hour or your innovation day or your innovation week in a 90-day period of time, you're going to go ahead and you're going to look at all of the different things in your innovation backlog, and you're going to pick which ones feel the most important, most interesting, and most relevant to explore for that period of time. And at that point, you can go down the rabbit hole as deep as you want because you have dedicated time and space to go ahead and explore these things. This is where you can research, you can experiment, you can reach out to people and be like, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think about this? That's how my 90-day planner came about. Is I had the idea, it was in my innovation backlog. I started to ping some of my customers and reach out and say, hey, I know we work together to do 90-day planning. What would you think if I created a 90-day planner? hour, right? That came out of my innovation hour backlog. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Everybody wanted the planner. And so it became something that I pursued. If I had reached out to everybody and they said, nah, I don't really do paper planners, I'd never use it, I would probably have a little bit more work to do, or I may have said not a big priority and moved on to a different one of my ideas. So you can dynamically pick which things in your backlog are the most important to explore, and you can have your entire team work on it. So you can have one backlog for your entire team, and they can go out and you can have everybody have an innovation hour, and they can each pick an idea to explore. You figure out how it makes sense to do in your business. The key is that you have a place to put those ideas and those bright, shiny objects when they come up, and you create the protected space to actually work on the ones that you deem the most important or most relevant for that particular period of time. And that is how you stay focused and how you make sure you are not being distracted and pulling your focus from what matters most in your business. Now, I'm going to give you a couple little tips that work really well for me when it comes to avoiding bright, shiny objects. There are two root causes of a lot of bright, shiny objects, and one is your email inbox, and the other is your social media feed. So sometimes your email inbox, it's not just the sale from your favorite brand telling you that they've got some crazy percentage off. Sometimes it really is a program that you want to check out, or somebody is doing some sort of free training, or even a paid retreat that you really want to attend, right? And so there's things that you want to follow up on, but you don't need to follow up on them right now. You want to go read the blog post. You want to go listen to the podcast episode. You want to check out that program, or maybe you even do want to shop the 60% off sale, right? That's fun too. So what I recommend you do, and I have this in my inbox, is I create a folder called To Follow Up On. And anytime I see those emails that, again, it's something that I really genuinely want to take some time and take some action on, but I don't want to distract myself and I don't want to do it right this second, I stick them in the To Follow Up On folder. And then once a week, when I get to my weekly innovation hour, I look at my backlog, and I also go to my To Follow Up On folder, and I'll pick between those to see which things to do. And I'll tell you now, a lot of the times, the things in my To Follow Up On folder, I never follow up on them. In the moment, it feels really important. I really want to go check out that webinar. And then by the time I get to my innovation hour and I'm looking at all of the things that I could potentially invest that hour in, those things don't seem quite so important anymore. And if I had just immediately reacted instead of putting this system in place to address it, I would have spent time on a whole lot of things that I didn't actually need to spend time on. So that's your email inbox. That's a tip for you there. Now for social media, I'm going to give you a tip specifically for Instagram, but you can follow the same thing for some of the other platforms if you use some of the other platforms more. So just like with emails, you might see some posts that you want to follow up on, right? A lot of times people are posting things and you're like, oh, that sounds really interesting, or I want to reach out to them about this. You can use the save function and you can create a To Follow Up On collection the same exact way that you would in your inbox. And the same thing when you get to your innovation hour, just look at your backlog and look at your To Follow Up On folders or collections and see which thing or things are most important for that time that you have dedicated. So the goal here is to remain laser focused on what matters most, but to make sure that you are creating space to explore new ideas so that you are constantly growing and scaling your business and staying ahead of the market and the needs before people sometimes even realize that they want it. So this is a quick tip for you, but one that can save you a lot of time and be really valuable if you implement in your business. I can't wait to hear how you leverage Innovation Hour in your business, and I will see you again next week. Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Crista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode.